If Ms. Faulkner does come back in, I'll allow her to come up when she comes back in.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Grego, and staff. My name is Brant Robinson. I've had the pleasure of speaking to you all and with you all many times, and I just want to point out, as always, that it's such a pleasure and such an honor to be in a room that's surrounded by so many committed educators. Not to get political, but many of us might believe that our democracy itself is under attack, and if that's the case, I think you need to look no further than this room to see that it really does bring out the best in all of us. As you know, I teach at Dunedin High School. For the past 2 years, my wife and I are the co-chairs of the Human and Civil Rights Committee for the Pinellas Classroom Teacher Association, and you know that we've been working on the Restorative Practice Initiative. We're extremely proud of this effort. In fact, maybe more so because for the last 9 months at the PCTA headquarters, we actually sit down with members of the district, Pat Wright, Bob Poth, Dan Evans, and I know they're in the room tonight, and we really appreciate you. We're having our first meeting tomorrow. We've had wonderfully collaborative and most importantly restorative meetings together as a group, and I wish you guys could see how exhilarating and how collaborative, how respectful those meetings are. As we went into the summer, we were very excited because all the site-based teams in the district, as you know, were meeting this summer. We were thinking to continue to look forward to restorative practice. We were quite surprised when we found out that the district was unveiling a new initiative called Equity with Excellence for All. And though we very much support the initiative, we're concerned as we go forward into what we looked forward to as maybe kind of a breakout year for restorative practice. We're concerned because now, and I don't mean this with any disrespect, but essentially the Equity with Excellence for All model is essentially kind of bundling things together like restorative practice, PBIS, and also culturally relevant instruction. The challenge is, as we go forward, this raises concerns. Are we actually providing the kind of support and coaching that teachers need for any of those initiatives? We don't think that anyone is proficient in any of those fundamental initiatives themselves, but the question is, are we able to provide support when it comes to coaching? We're looking forward to meeting tomorrow. We have some other suggestions. For example, I hope you're familiar with something called restorative conferences. It's something the district did not invest in. Many other districts do, but we're a month into the school year. Everyone in this room knows who those students are by now who are behavior challenges, academically challenged, and so on. Now we should have something in place in all schools to actually deal with those students, but I don't know that we do. We're also concerned because we want to make sure we have community outreach. As you know, the district has 8 initiatives that are part of the restorative practice plan. One of those is community outreach. So I'm here tonight to ask questions in good faith about, are we able to really effectively assess what we've committed to? And so I really look forward to you all, and I look forward to further progress and updates from us. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next 2 speakers are Carol Robinson and Paul Zanger.
Hi, Madam Speaker, Madam Chairman, board members, Dr. Grego and staff. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. As my co-chair said of the Human Civil Rights Committees for PCTA, we've been working on the Restorative Practice Initiative for almost 2 years now, and we really wanted to make sure it was implemented in Pinellas County with fidelity, because it has the power to make a huge shift change in a district where it's implemented with complete fidelity. And we really wanted it done right. Some of our members have gone to other districts in different states and seen how they've implemented it, and we had really strong hopes that it would be brought back to Pinellas County. And this past year, we had our first 6-hour training with support staff. It included head plant operators, it included kitchen workers, and district officials, all working together at the PCTA headquarters. It was a wonderful experience, and we look forward to more trainings with the full support staff going into the 12-hour trainings. And when we got back to school, we were told that instead of the 12-hour trainings, it would be a 1-hour training instead. And we were very disappointed. And last semester, we gave a survey to all our faculty representatives throughout the district. And this was about how they felt restorative practices was being implemented in their schools. And the one section that really stood out was about how they felt the administrators were modeling restorative practices toward the teachers, a huge part of the school's implementation part. And that's the piece that really was missing at the school level. And without going into the details about how that looks in a school, the administrators, principals, assistant principals are really not modeling what restorative practices looks like. They expect teachers to be implementing this with their students, but they're not walking the walk. And I really want to see the strategic plan to have some room in it to address that part of the need in Pinellas County for our administrators to be held to the same standard to model restorative practices just as teachers are expected to model it. I really appreciate you to take this into consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Zanger? Our next two speakers are Judy McGinty and Mike Gandolfo.
Good evening. I am Judy McGinty, and I'm here on behalf of our FAST organization. And the school district's current implementation of restorative practices is not working. I'm here to ask the school district to come up with a more comprehensive plan for implementation. These are the three things that are not happening in Pinellas County schools that must happen for a successful implementation. Restorative conferencing. This is a key component necessary for RP to be successful. This has not happened in any Pinellas County school. 2, we know that for good implementation, it is critical that an expert with experience implementing restorative practices successfully somewhere else needs to visit the school once a month to provide mentoring and coaching. And 3, an expert with experience implementing restorative practices successfully somewhere else must conduct training for all teachers and support staff together on site. These 3 components are necessary for high-quality implementation, and they are missing from the Pinellas County implementation plan. We are asking our school board members to demand better implementation for our children. We need a new contract with IIRP that includes these 3 missing components. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Grego, and staff. Every year comes with the annual raising of the bar for the teaching profession and for educators in general. Today, teachers are asked to accomplish more with less, to add more to an overcrowded plate, to work longer, harder, and to take on additional certifications. Educators are expected to be the cure-all for all student exceptionalities, family hardships, and poverty, and to push those students to exceed at passing a standardized test. At every turn, the teachers of Pinellas have accomplished all that has been asked of them. The continual pressure placed on educator and student is good for short-term gain only. In the long run, it will burn out teachers and produce a generation of kids resistant to learning. However, that is what has been asked of your employees, and that is what they have delivered. Take ESOL courses so you can teach students who do not speak English. Take ESE coursework and you can teach students with emotional behavior disorder. Take 300 hours of reading coursework, learn restorative practice, prepare students for the endurance required for intense and prolonged testing. Teach while parades of visitors disrupt your classroom environment. Handle your class with less support from ESE associates and other professionals. The bar has been raised, and we've answered every challenge asked of us. The only bar that has not been raised is the bar for wages. We have been fed a steady diet of cost of living raises. The cost of living is up 2.5% since last year. We're tired of staying at the same level on the financial treadmill. We work harder, but do not seem to be getting anywhere. It simply is not fair. The cost of living has increased by 21.7% since 2008. We've been barely treading water with the raises we've received. Teachers have helped fund their own raises by teaching larger class loads every year. The job gets tougher, as do the evaluations. You have money in reserve that exceeds the state requirements as well as your own policy requirements. Our district is far more fiscally sound than almost every other district in the state. Your employees have brought this district so much national acclaim and award. If you can spend $185 million on capital improvements this year in buildings, you need to consider taking care of the people that work in those buildings. They rank 47th among the states in support professional pay and 46th in teacher pay. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Nancy Velarde and Janet Cunningham.
Good evening. For the past year or more, everywhere you look are articles, series, and columns written about the same topic, the teacher shortage. It is referred to repeatedly as a national crisis, and we are feeling the effects here in Florida with 3,500 vacancies across the state at last count. Most, if not all, of these stories come to the same conclusion. This is an easily corrected crisis. An article in the September Forbes magazine had an interesting take. There really isn't a teacher shortage at all. There are plenty of phenomenal teachers in this country. They just don't want to teach anymore. And for many valid reasons. The article cites the lack of raises beyond the cost of living as the most obvious one of all. But they also refer to, and I quote, the steady drumbeat of disrespect, the repeated refrain that U.S. schools are failing, the loss of professional autonomy, and an accountability movement that is more about threats than support. Most authors of these investigative articles, including one by our own Paula Dockery, has come to the very same conclusions. So my question is, why hasn't Pinellas County? While teachers are fleeing the profession in droves, the assault continues on the ones who remain. Our teachers return each August fulfilled and anxious to meet and get to know their new students, and they are greeted with a laundry list of new expectations and demands that extend far beyond their classroom. The micromanagement grows more intense with every year as teachers are considered units and children data points. Robotic, scripted lessons are insisted upon, completely demolishing the human factor that is the necessary part of education. We were thrilled to learn about the move towards social emotional learning, something desired by teachers for years. But while we attempt to build those crucial relationships with our new students, they are dragged out in the first week of school, mind you, for testing. We are pulled out to Proctor. Administrators are doubling down on their walkthroughs, which have long since ceased to be for support, have turned critical and punitive. Highly effective teachers are being pulled out for mandated trainings on multiple days, leaving subs in their stead. The ever-rising numbers of students in our classes does nothing to encourage social emotional connections. Forming bonds with trust with our students, which we support wholeheartedly, has been made near impossible with all of the constant interference. We know the legislature's at the root of the problem. When our own district willfully stands with them rather than with us, it is a crippling blow to the trust and relationship we want to establish with you. We would like to return to the 3 R's in the classroom: reading, writing, and arithmetic. And we would like your 3 R's to be rollback of demands, raises, and respect.
just want to correct something that was said, because we've not stood with the legislature against teachers on any item that they brought forward. We've not stood with the legislature when they wanted to take money and provide for charters and vouchers away from public education. We fought against additional security officers and guns in our schools. We fought to make sure that they're continuing with your retirement from the Florida retirement system. We consistently challenge them on some of the state mandated testing that's inappropriate and inaccurate. And we consistently go against them when it comes to school grades, because for me and for many others, that is an erroneous grade. It really doesn't show what's going on in the classroom or with those students. We've consistently supported an increase in our millage rates, because we've seen the increase in property values, but we don't see that increase coming back to the district. We've consistently fought asking them to allow us to be able to have a little bit more discretion, if you will, with the dollars that we receive so that we can span out services across. We don't get, as you heard in today's budget, absolutely no money for construction. So we've got to find money somewhere, which is why we've had to borrow money to even make sure we have the technology or that we have facilities that are not falling down around our students' ears. So I mean no disrespect on that, but I could not allow that to stand because that is so inaccurate. I've gotten thrown out of offices because I stand for Pinellas County and for teachers. I've had legislators threaten funding on this district because I speak up and others speak up. So I just could not threaten, they've done it. So I cannot allow that one to stand. I will take anything else that you're saying, and if it's on point, it'll go. But that one, I'm sorry, I don't typically do that, but I could not allow that one to stand because that's not accurate. I do apologize. Next speaker, please.
Board members, Dr. Grego, my name is Janet Cunningham, and I work at Calvin Hunsinger, which is an ESE center. I'm here tonight to speak specifically about our support personnel and about the need for them to be recognized as the professionals they are, in addition to having their salaries boosted. While we as teachers are 46th with our salary, they are 47th, and they make far less than we do. Just looking right now, I found out that Trader Joe's starts at $13.29 an hour, Walmart $14.26 an hour, and Target at $13 an hour for full-time hourly wages. All of them, if you do the math, equate over the federal poverty level, which is $24,600 for a family of 4 with one income earner. Many of our support personnel have that. I work with an ESE associate who has a second job. Most of our ESE associates have second jobs. Additionally, to their second jobs, they get up earlier than I do, and I work high school hours. Okay? They get up and they're on the bus, and they're watching our school-based mental health and our EBD students on the bus on the way in before we start. When we say goodbye to our students, they're on the buses, watching them on the way home to ensure continuity and safety. They provide a vital aspect to our school system. And yet, what they're paid becomes a mere pittance. I don't believe that anybody works the ESE associate job for the money, but many of them can't afford to continue to work that job. My daughter, a graduate of Pinellas County Schools, walked out from her high school diploma, got a job at a local yogurt shop, and within 6 months was the manager making $32,000 a year. I know that our students are worth more than yogurt. It's really disheartening to even share that personal story with anybody because I don't want my associates to leave. They provide safety for our kids. They provide safety for our staff. They are eyes and ears that we need to have at all of our schools with all of our students, specifically ESE students. Those are vulnerable students, and they are also volatile students. And we need to have that help, and we need to have that assistance. We also need to have that recognized with looking at what their pay salaries are. Please, as we continue to look through negotiations for what salaries will be, consider the importance of the support professionals with the respect that they deserve. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Travis Luth and Robert Phillips.
Move for when Ms. Velarde was up. So the clock's been fixed. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. It's my first time speaking before the board, so I apologize. But I'll try to be concise and quick. I woke up this morning at 4:30 so that I'd have time to go work out to help alleviate the effects of stress on my body that come from being a teacher. I had to be home by 6:10 to help my wife get out the door to her position as a teacher at Bayside High School. Then it was up to me to feed and clothe and create lunches and get out the door my two daughters by 7:30 so I could drop them off at preschool and my brand new kindergartner who just started at Lakeview Fundamental. And then from there I go drive straight to Pinellas Secondary School to be there by 8:50 for our middle school hour start time for our high school students. I teach all day in a school that is underfunded, understaffed, and overcrowded with all the students that the rest of the schools in this county do not want. At this school, I teach reading, emphasis on the quotations, because it's a class that I have been told is simply, quote, test prep to get them to pass the FSA, a course where the county no longer trusts the teachers, so we now have our whole curriculum written out for us day by day in giant binders that are handed to us at the beginning of each quarter. I fill out feedback forms for 504s, IEPs, and threat assessments. I monitor students' physical and mental health, on watch for drug overdoses, signs of suicidal ideation, or simply anger and fear that can explode into physical violence in a single breath. I also try to expand their worldview, teach them to rekindle a love of reading that was ground out in the 5th grade, and show them that kindness really can make a difference. And what do I and my fellow teachers, both here and across the state, get for it? A deep well of disrespect from our superiors, politicians, and governing bodies, and a level of pay that is so dismal that even though my wife and I both teach, I still work 2 other jobs 4 to 5 nights a week so that we can afford to be teachers. To put a nice serendipitous bow on this morning while making breakfast, my 5-year-old was sitting at the table drawing. She's obsessed with drawing, loves to draws all the time right now, right? Draws everything. And she says to me, just out of the blue, Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be a teacher who teaches art. I smiled at her and I told her, that would be awesome. You would be so great at teaching kids how to draw. And in my head, all I could think was, please don't let her become a teacher. As the gentleman on the dais said earlier, it's because of the tax structure in this state. Well, then the tax structure in this state is broken, and it needs to be fixed. And it starts with the people who represent us. The millage rate in this county used to be 9.35, which if that was still the millage rate today would be $247 million extra dollars in this county's budget. Okay? I understand that it's the legislatures, but you are the voice between us because we do not have the legal right to go on strike and protest directly to the state.
Robert Phillips.
All right, my name is Robert Phillips, and I work at Nina Harris ESE Center. This is a school that is in incredible amount of distress. I have pictures here to show the level of a beating that I took on the bus from one of our students at Nina Harris on the first week of school. We have 3 behavior specialists at our school, one of which has a broken leg. We do not have nearly the manpower to deal with the type of children that we are receiving. And when I say children, I'm not talking about children. I'm talking about 19 to 22-year-old grown men, 250-pound men, that broke down a door to an OTPT lounge in order to assault the toys in there while there were actual children in wheelchairs being treated for their physical disabilities. Someone is going to die. I have personally witnessed our students perform sexual assaults at Nina Harris, things that anybody else in this room would go to prison for. I have seen weekly people have to go to workman's comp from being beaten, from having bones broken. It is unacceptable, the level of abuse that we are expected to take. I am an ESE associate. I make about $12.50 an hour. Who else here has ever worked a job for $12.50 an hour where you're going to go home to your family with your face looking like that? No one. Several people here have brought up that the pay rate for the ESE associates is abysmal. I know you understand that. However, something needs to be done at that school. We need more support. We are not able to serve these kids in a way that they are going to be able to survive even in a day program in the real world after they graduate. I, in my classroom right now, have 9 kids in there with 4 adults. We still do not have the manpower to perform extended transition duties with these students. I want to know who is speaking out for these kids who cannot speak out for themselves. Who's going to have to die before somebody does something about this? Thank you.
Dr. Grego, can you follow up